Hello everyone. My name is Strange, and I believe that people should know the truth. My sources at the Pentagon were able to give me a highly classified letter at the risk of their lives. The recipient does not know about its existence. But thanks to this letter, we can now find out what really happened at the classified site, Zone 51. And so I'm starting, Dear Lily. If you're reading this, it means I'm already dead or I'm going to be soon. I'm very sorry, my gentle beloved, that you have to see this letter in front of your beautiful brown eyes at all. You know, when Object 1 was brought to our so-called Zone 51 for study 6 months ago, I thought that humanity would finally make a breakthrough in the field of cancer treatment. I sincerely believe that the Lord God Himself sent us this creature as a gift, so that we could use it to understand how to treat those who are barely able to save even at the present time. But who would have thought that we would open Pandora's box? The screeching. You can now be heard from everywhere. Lily, I'm so sorry that you and I didn't go to Niagara Falls on our weekend, as you always dreamed of. If I hadn't balked then, if I hadn't been obsessed with new research, we would probably be sitting on a bench right now, eating delicious lemon ice cream. I remember that you love him very much. Now, instead of our weekend, I'm sitting behind an armored door, and I shudder at the slightest rustle and screech behind it. My office should be soundproof. More precisely, it should have been, but apparently no sane architect's mind could be prepared for this. This object, it was just a black puddle that was discovered in the Mariana Trench. We studied it by exposing it to radiation, as well as exposure to gamma and beta rays, but there was no effect. Until one drunken idiot, Jeremy, came into the room to the object, and it was then that a terrible thing happened. The puddle suddenly came to life, and came into contact with the scientist. I don't even know what she did to him. The video from the surveillance camera in the test room shed little light. Object 1 seemed to engulf Jeremy, or maybe it was Jeremy who absorbed the object. Anyway, both of these creatures broke free, and they started infecting the entire staff. The security forces tried to prevent the advance of Patient Zero and its henchmen, but what could they do against the substance? And now a full-fledged being, with their firearm toys, even if neither radiation nor experimental laser guns caused harm to the Object 1 even at the testing stage. Lily, please forgive me for shifting this responsibility onto you. For me, this letter is a kind of request for redemption. It will be a miracle if our wing of the underground base can be saved. But if not, I hope this creature doesn't break free. If necessary, I am ready to perish with him. Although, to be honest, I really don't want to die. From my room, I managed to block all internal germs. Fortunately, the day before the incident, I was given a new level of security clearance. Funny, isn't it? I was so happy about the promotion, and now I'm probably the only one standing in the way of monsters who are rushing to freedom. Lily, please bring this letter to any newspaper or radio station. Anywhere at least. People need to know the truth. Don't throw it away as the ravings of a madman, please. What good does it do me? The sooner the public finds out about this, the faster and more effectively, at least I hope so, the state will solve the problem. Although probably everything will be hushed up again. Do you remember that story about the whole extinct farm in Colorado, where all the cattle and people disappeared? The government said at the time that the military had unsuccessfully tested its new weapons, and people ate it. In fact, it was contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. UFOs, little green men. It's all fucking true, Lily. Oh, my love, you probably think that this is all the nonsense of a madman. You've been thinking all this time that I'm a surgeon at our Winchester local hospital. And in part it was so, but it was all a cover-up. The management has come up with a legend for all of us, so that no one has any suspicions about who we are and what we really do. Darling, please tell everyone we know that I am truly sorry. I really believe that our research would help humanity take it to a new level of development. That we will defeat AIDS, COVID, and other terrible diseases. And we almost did it, if it wasn't for Jeremy. My dear, I can't survive, I'm sorry. Either I will die of hunger or thirst, or the infected will break through to me. Jeremy, or whatever has become him, controls the rest. Outwardly, these are ordinary people, but their pupils are black, and they release tentacles that are stronger than a steel rope. I don't even know if any tank will help in this situation or not. The security cameras are not working. I'm blind as a mole in the deepest hole. Apparently, this creature that absorbed and captured Jeremy, it got into his memory, and fished out information about such technical equipment at our base. The electricity is still running. I tried to explain to the management that everything had gone to waste, that it was impossible to open the doors in any case. Do you know what they said to me? Wait, they told me so. Why wait? Death? Oh, I'll wait for death. You probably have a question. How was I able to send this letter? Well, with the new level of access, I got the opportunity to go outside the local network. Robert from the tech department taught me when he explained how he downloads erotica to his hard drive. A jerk, right? Maybe. But it was his explanations that became my salvation. At least I had the opportunity to say goodbye to you. I wish I could say that I'm a hero and all that, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared, Lily, and I really don't want to become one of the followers of this main monster. After all, they all look no different from ordinary people. Well, they don't differ much. And also, I'm terribly hungry. And a drink. It's been 12 hours since I locked myself in the security office. As luck would have it, pistols and pump-action shotguns were left here, but not a single piece of bread or even a protein bar. You know, honey, yes, I know it might be hard for you to read this, but I'm thinking about shooting myself. What's the use of me if I either starve to death or this bastard takes control of me? Moreover, I'm even afraid to think that I might turn against you one day if the situation gets out of control. Heck, the light began to blink. It's bad. After all, this means that there is no one to refuel the diesel generators. Today is the day when, according to the plan, the maintenance staff of the base should have done this. One good thing is that after the main power is turned off, there will be a backup, and it will hold back the monsters. The doors should not let them through. At least I hope so. On the other hand, since Object 1 is able to access the memory of the captured, I do not exclude this possibility. It means that it is only a matter of time before they come here and try to open everything themselves. Fuck. I'm going to break all the control panels now, since the weapons are nearby. I don't want anyone from the inside to be able to get out. I admit that I'm condemning someone to death. After all, perhaps someone somewhere is still alive, not under control and waiting for outside help. But I myself, no, it's better to close everything tightly here than from heaven, if they still exist, to witness how our civilization is dying. My dear wife Lily, forgive me, and goodbye. P.S. I sincerely love you, the tenderness of my soul and the joy of my heart.
A middle-aged guy sat at a computer monitor and stared intently at the rows of running numbers. He wrote out some of them in a notebook and then peered at the monitor again. It was necessary to sort out some routine, systematize the data, and then prepare a scheme for the reorganization of the Eastern Building. Strangely enough, all this was blamed on him, an ordinary employee of the Dulce base in New Mexico. This is a great opportunity to rise in your career. This is your chance. Don't miss the opportunity. The words of relatives and colleagues who found out about the transfer to a closed research base were spinning in his head. Of course, they did not know which base. Then he did not know about it himself. Fuck you all. A second younger guy broke away from the next monitor. What's wrong, Andrew? Did you say something? Andrew nodded his head. Just about my own. I got this report. I want coffee. The other guy's name was Jeremiah, and he nodded his head eagerly. Yes, I wouldn't mind either. Can we make a small cut? An hour later, both guys were sitting at a small table, which was littered with folders with papers and drinking coffee from disposable cups, pushing themselves a little space on the table. These papers are endless, Andrew. Have you seen the chief? Not today. Jeremiah shook his head. He walks around, angry as a dragon. Yesterday, but wait. The guy began to pick in the pocket of his white sterile pants and fished out a cell phone. Strangely enough, turned on a YouTube tube. Look, they're talking about our base. The display said nothing about the Dulce base, but they were talking some wild nonsense about experiments on people, about multi-tiered preparation prisons where aliens from almost all regions of the galaxy are kept, and much, much more. And the people believe that? Jeremiah nodded. The people believe in everything that is shrouded in mystery. It's also more interesting. But that's not the point. The chief apparently saw this video. I heard it out of the corner of my ear. After that, by the way, the secrecy regime was strengthened. Did you notice? Andrew felt that certain changes had come. Security was tightened at the upper level, and the exit from the sectors to which the scientists were assigned was prohibited. And how did you turn on this recording? There is no internet. Jeremiah put the phone away. It's not online. I downloaded this recording when I was in the dorm. My contract ends in 10 days and I'm finally going home. But then it's back here. Don't spoil the mood, bro. Let's keep working. A few minutes later, the two analytical scientists were sitting in front of their monitors and tapping keys on the keyboard. It had to be thought out. Aliens, an underground base, secret research. Well, the base is really underground, but its profile is quite definite. Missile defense of the territory of the United States, support and control of a satellite constellation over the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, control and maintenance of underwater ocean tele and fiber optic communications connecting America and Eurasia. Yes, not many people know about this, but continents and countries are connected by many communications, and 90% of them are laid along the ocean floor, and here on Dulce, there is a huge control center. The numbers were finished. Jerry, listen. Will you help me with the reorganization scheme? There are 4 hours left until the end of the working day. I don't have time. How are you? I'm finishing up. Yes, I think it's nothing complicated. Suddenly, somewhere in the distance, something rumbled. The guys exchanged glances. What the? An alarm siren sounded on the wall. A red light bulb spun, casting bright red and light pink spots on the walls in a circle. Alarm. Protocol. Exercises were regularly practiced at the base in case of various emergency situations, but the exercises were negotiated in advance. An experienced instructor from the Warriors acted at each level. They were quite the queens, fit, strong, arrogant. They said that wherever someone goes, you go there, you go there. Take places according to the staffing table. According to the protocol, Andrew and Jeremiah had to leave the workplaces of their department, close the doors with a magnetic lock, and prepare for the destruction of information on personal computers. Is this a drill again? It doesn't look like it. Enter the code, close the doors. And if anything, I start copying information to a closed cloud. Come on, hurry up. Don't mess around. But it was not possible to close the door. Outside, she was literally yelled inside, almost knocking Andrew down by some brave Marine. He held the machine gun with both hands, looked around the room with a furious gaze, and stared at the ventilation hatch.
How did you survive? Half of the sector took a break. The gas was turned on through the ventilation.
Andrew and Jeremiah also looked at the ventilation shaft. What kind of gas? What happened? We have an autonomous... The Marine yelled as he pushed through the door.
Keep quiet. This is an attack. The fighting is going on in the upper sector. They are being finished off there, but somehow they were able to penetrate to our level. Here you go.
The Marine slid the machine gun from behind his back, took it off by throwing the belt over his neck, and threw it to Andrew.
Here you go. Here I said, and this is for you.
The soldier took the pistol out of its holster and threw it to Jeremiah. He awkwardly caught the pistol by the barrel, hit his finger. The gun fell to the floor.
Well, he picked it up. The Marine poked him with the barrel of a machine gun. And follow me now. I'm the only survivor in the entire corridor. Cover me.
But the Marine's plan was not destined to come true. As soon as he ran out into the corridor, dragging two already armed scientists with him, a burst from a machine gun sounded, or maybe something heavier. The soldier was pierced and thrown aside. He was still alive and reached into his pocket for a grenade. A voice sounded in an unfamiliar language, and then a single shot rang out. Andrew was trying to pull the bolt of the machine gun, and Jeremiah was standing like a child and holding the gun sideways in front of his chest, as if trying to cover himself with it. Two soldiers came into the office. They were dressed in suits made of flexible armor plates. They wore maroon berets on their heads, and their faces were painted over with camouflage colors. "Drop your weapon and don't move." The phrase sounded in English but with a strong accent. Andrew had experience with Serbs, and it seemed to him that it was them, although it could also be Russians. "Who are you? What do you need?" "It's a secret." Andrew was not allowed to finish, but simply calmed down with the butt. Jeremiah was trembling and staring with round eyes, clutching the gun to his chest. One of the invading soldiers pointed him out to the second soldier.
At the expense of it, why did you get up?
A burst shot through and threw Jeremiah against the wall. Andrew screamed, but he was roughly shaken by the collar, slapped in the face, and then put a bayonet knife to his neck.
You have the only chance to survive, do you understand? Nod.
Andrew nodded and cut himself a little on the bayonet.
I know you must have a single access code that is known to all employees. If you tell us the code, you'll live. I'll give you 5 seconds.
None when Andrew didn't know. He realized that he had exactly 5 seconds left to live. Suddenly, one of the invading soldiers had a walkie-talkie. If Andrew knew their language, he would be able to make out the following phrase:
We work the bunker ourselves, explosives. Finish off the sector, if there are prisoners, then drag one here by the ass.
Understood. Okay, we're taking this one with us.
When the soldiers ran out of the office, taking Andrew with them, the sappers literally followed into the office with a small box, which they carried together. Andrew had the feeling that the attackers were perfectly aware of the location of the premises of their base. He himself did not know where they were going. First, they ran into the end of the corridor. The door was blown up. Then they ran down the stairs and ran into the elevator shaft. The elevator was still working. They drove down for about 5 minutes. While driving, one of the fighters pushed Andrew in the back with a machine gun.
Do you have any idea, Bug, what you've been doing here?
The second soldier was looking at the elevator panel and the running numbers. Andrew was trembling. The first shock began to pass. His lip was shaking. The words were hard to come by. I'm just an analyst. I deal with logistics and delivery data. I don't know. The soldier was silent. His face, painted with camouflage paint, was scary. His eyes were burning with anger and his teeth were bared. For a second, Andrew thought the soldier was growling. It is unknown what would have happened next if the elevator had not arrived at its destination. Andrew was pushed out of the elevator. He had never been here before.
We have 15 minutes before evacuation. The cleanup team had to work out.
Somewhere in the distance, a long corridor as wide as a hangar was being fired. It was cold. It was the lower underground tier. After a minute, Andrew couldn't believe his words. From the FSB report: attack on a secret facility in the United States, Dulce-based New Mexico.
A combined Special Forces unit with a separate unit of the Serbian Corps of General Lazic was used in the attack. The purpose of the attack is to suppress research activities, select technologies if possible, ready-made drugs, and competent employees. As for the additional mission, the liberation of a group of paratroopers captured in Mali Vukovar, the mission was not completed due to the impossibility of its implementation. The paratroopers were subjected to experiments at the Dulce base. The corpses were evacuated. During the clash, one of the employees, Andrew Todd, was captured and executed unnecessarily. Transport helicopters captured at the Air Force military base in the Indian reservation bordering the base are involved in the evacuation. The evacuation was carried out along the corridor towards the Mexican border.
Postscript:
The group of Serbs of General Lazic was non-fatally eliminated in order to prevent information leakage. Currently, all of them are enrolled in the FSB Special Forces staff to carry out special and covert operations.
Andrew followed the soldiers through the premises of the experimental research site, divided into sections and cells. No one seemed to be paying attention to him. There were prototypes in each cell. Andrew looked from side to side with wide eyes and couldn't believe it. The huge glass prisms contained minerals unknown to him, porous stones covered with an incomprehensible coating, animals unknown to him, reptiles and snakes, giant spiders. In one place, he clearly saw humanoids, as if from a movie. It was these humanoids, as it became clear and the soldiers were interested in, they almost began to carry huge prisms to the cargo corridor in the depths of the landfill. As soon as the analytical scientist had the idea of escaping, he was roughly grabbed and driven forward with butts.
Go, go, you bastard. Look at what your people have done.
Andrew was pushed into a fenced-off room, flooded with the old light. The walls were also white. But on the walls, oh horror, on the walls 7 naked male bodies hung on hooks. Their bellies were ripped open and torn, their eyes bulged, their mouths opened in a silent scream full of pain. Andrew wanted to turn away, but one of the paratroopers, a huge man, roughly turned him around and hit him in the back of the head.
Look, I say, you bastard. You're going to be hanging now too.
The paratrooper pressed the barrel against Andrew's temple, but he was in no hurry to press. I enjoyed his fear.
Put it down. We'll leave them a reminder, then install thermobaric charges that trigger movement. Command.
The big paratrooper shrugged his shoulders and went to give orders to the sappers, and the commander looked into Andrew's eyes with a cold, icy look. At that moment, he realized that this was his death, the report of a secret unit of the US Army, the Open Sky Project.
The base in Dulce was partially destroyed by an unknown enemy. I am transferring to your computer video materials received online from one of the cameras of a fighter of the isolation group. The head of a young scientist appeared on the display. The head separated from the body and placed on a table in a prominent place. There was a crossed-out American flag on his forehead. And what an inscription! In Russian. Later, the inscription was interpreted and translated. The recording was cut short by a powerful underground explosion. The inscription read, "Greetings from the landing party."
The crowd cluttered the whole avenue, motley, faceless, and multifaceted at the same time, aggressive, demanding. In some places, more restrained islands arose, consisting of young people dressed up as hippies and elderly people, mostly grandmothers with long gray hair from environmental organizations and the same hippie movement and protest associations against any wars. A sturdy-looking grandfather with a mustache as thick as two braids and the same beard appeared in front of the camera. "We are not asking, we are finally demanding, and we have the right to do so. The supremacy of the laws of democracy and a free society. Our government has no right to organize any underground bases in the United States for taxpayers' money." A young reporter girl who had previously felt uncomfortable filming the raging crowd began to feel a little more confident listening to the measured speech of the old man. "Don't you think it's for our common safety?" The grandfather grinned. Someone shouted behind his back, "If the authorities do not give us the alien, we will take it ourselves." And the grandfather himself continued, "I do not think at all. I am a former military man myself, and I know perfectly well the strength and capabilities of our army. We will wring the neck of any aggressor, as it was with Milosevic, Hussein, and others. We demand to make public the actions that are being carried out in the Area 51. The grandfather raised his hand with a clenched fist up, and his gesture was answered by a polyphony, gaining strength and chanting. "Zone 51, Zone 51, Zone 51. Against the background of a single shout, it was heard. "Nevada is here for you, not Washington. Let the delegates inside the zone." The head of the internal and external guard post sat at the central console, viewed images from surveillance cameras, fixed his gaze on any circumstances deviating from the norm, analyzed them, and, having made a decision about security, looked away. Out of the corner of his eye, he watched reports from various cities in the United States, including Las Vegas. People went berserk and demanded to release secret protocols and research conducted or still being conducted in Area 51. Oh, and that jerk is there too. The chief saw the commander of the National Guard's operational headquarters climb onto the makeshift platform perched on Bradley's armored vehicle. "Citizens, in the person of the leadership of the state of Nevada, I want to welcome you." Loud and aggressive voices rang out from the crowd. "Fuck you, you racist pig! Grab him, guys! We all know about your fucked up Area 51. Immediately, a man was slowly, as gently as possible, but compulsively led out of the crowd, with a blanket thrown over him, and a black man's hand covered with blisters, scabs, and whitish purulent spots poked out from under the blanket. "Here, Noah, he told us everything. We know all about the experiments on people inside the zone." Suddenly, a bottle flew out of the crowd towards the armored car, so far just with half-finished beer. Another one, and another. Two brave soldiers jumped onto the platform and dragged the commander of the National Guard with them. An armored vehicle began to deploy a machine gun turret, breaking the wooden flooring. The crowd quieted down a bit, retreated back, and the armored car began to move away from the central avenue towards the alley. The main posts were not removed. The phone rang on the central console. The head of the guard service turned down the volume of the TV and picked up the receiver. "Central Control, I'm listening." "Yes, I saw it. I don't think anything, but the situation is heating up. Apparently, competent provocateurs are working in the crowd. That's right, we'll prepare everything in 24 hours. How long? That's right, we'll try to make it in 12 hours. The head of the guard service hung up the phone, but immediately picked it up and dialed the intercom number. "Ponker, gather all the commanders and heads of structural units in the second-level conference room right now for all about 10 minutes. "What? I don't care what he says. I am responsible for security. Grab by force and drag into the conference room. Do not announce anything to the staff. Let them work for now. Do it." With a 5-minute delay, 7 people were sitting at a table in the second-level conference room, a small room for operational and secret meetings. Some of them were dressed in medical coats, a couple of people in black robes. The head of the guard service stood at the head of the long table. Gentlemen, I am Mr. Johansson. You all know me very well. I am responsible for the security of all projects and Area 51 as a whole. An order has been received based on an analysis of intelligence data. It is necessary to prepare the base for evacuation, and in case it is impossible to eliminate all documentation and experimental results. This is an order from the center. Natchkar Johansson raised a finger above his head. One scientist stepped forward and immediately introduced himself, speaking with restraint and looking at Johansson. There are more than 500 staff members in my laboratory. Breakthrough research is currently underway. How do you order to evacuate? Immediately, the rest of the scientists raised their voices, got up from their seats, began to shout and wave their arms. Only the technicians were silent. What did they care? They collected all the prototypes in boxes and transported them, but it was more difficult for scientists. But nothing. Natchkar was smiling, but at the moment his eyes turned cold. He took out his service pistol from his belt holster and emptied almost the entire clip into the concrete ceiling. This calmed everyone down. Didn't I tell you that the evacuation order is supervised at the very top? It takes 10 hours to prepare. The cars and special boards will be delivered in 5 hours. Johansson looked at one of their technicians, who was wearing a black robe. What about the runway and the helipad? The technician nodded his head. Are they working normally? What kind of traffic is planned? It will take at least 4 cargo Chinooks to evacuate the entire base. In addition, people... Your task is to ensure efficiency, and everything else is not your concern. I provide security for the external and internal perimeters, accompanying the general evacuation process. The first report is in 6 hours. Get to work. 20 minutes later, the scientists dispersed to their sectors, and the head of the guard service returned to the central post, turned on the TV again. On the screen, some little-known military man, a small fry from the Air Force, was shaking hands with a representative of a contact group formed from the most rabid participants of the rally. There was an old man nearby who was giving an interview to a reporter girl, and the same reporter girl was reciting. At the moment, a preliminary agreement has been reached, and a group of delegates headed by a representative of the contact group will visit the notorious Zone 51. Is the government, which has been silent for so many years, finally ready to reveal the secret of Area 51? The visit is scheduled in 13 hours from the moment of reaching an agreement. Sandra Morfes was with you, CNN. Natchkar turned off the TV and looked at the internal surveillance monitors. The scientists hurried up, gave their people some commands. It was clear from the gestures of their hands that some of them were shouting, did not know what to grab, but generally correctly perceived the task. The unit for the preparation of live drugs was working normally. The test subjects were lying on tables. Some of them were in flasks filled with formaldehyde. The drugs were, simply put, living people, to whom they repeatedly tried to plant the genes of aliens, living and inanimate, brought here from all over the United States. Several individuals were brought from Europe. Scientists injected drugs into an artificial coma and overloaded them into autonomous life support devices, special flask modules that could be transported. The young doctor ran up to the head of the group. Mr. Soito, there are only 20 modules and 36 subjects. What should I do? Prepare the drugs at the research completion stage. Prepare the rest for disposal. I'll report to the head of the guard service. Let him deal with it. It's his job. Give me a list of the most suitable drugs in 15 minutes. Activate the injection machine, wait for the flasks with the drug to be completely emptied, then turn on the Freon spraying device. Wait for the control 5 minutes, stimulate the current, and if there is no response, prepare the hybrid for shipment. Is everything clear? A young scientist with awkward glasses, lopsided ears, jerkily nodded his head. He was afraid of this place, afraid of the hybrid in the huge glass cube, afraid of the boss. But somehow he managed to become an assistant during the tests, was in a position and received a hefty salary. The hybrid was under the influence of powerful drugs. A bony reptilian body rested at the bottom of a glass cube, occasionally tossing its oblong head, hissing and making clicking sounds. The hybrid was the first prototype developed through genetic engineering. The genes of a reptilian alien creature were introduced to a female monitor lizard, which was able to give offspring. The hybrid was intelligent and carnivorous. He often looked with yellow crocodile eyes at the assistant, a young, lop-eared scientist, and sweetly licked his bloodthirsty mouth. That's what he did this time. By an absurd coincidence, the injection treatment button and the cubic chamber depressurization button were located nearby on the control console. The young scientist, depressed by the unblinking gaze of the hybrid, pressed the depressurization button. The head of the guard service listened to the scream into the phone and pulled the collar away from his sweaty neck. The hair stood on end. Amid the screams of pain and horror, someone was yelling into the phone.
The Central Laboratory of Hybridization, help! The individual has broken free, help!
The voice ended in a cry of pain. The head of the guard saw on the monitor how a hefty 200-kilogram individual was scattering scientists, grabbing them with clawed paws, squeezing. One of them, some kind of lop-eared dystrophic, the individual simply tore off his head. It was necessary to act immediately. Nachkar pulled up the intercom microphone and the internal transition control console. Having typed in the combination, he tightly closed the research department with a steel hermetic door. But it was too late. The individual was already in the corridor. First and second isolation squads, combat alert, prepare heavy weapons, block offshoot 5. The research base itself was a huge fortification consisting of a central circle divided into various support services and laboratories and research facilities branched off from the central circle with ray corridors. Each corridor was blocked automatically. The head of the guard made a decision that seemed right to him, to activate automatic flamethrower installations that would simply flood the entire room with a river of burning napalm, destroying people along with the individual. People, therefore, were non-survivors. The last thing Nachkar Johansson saw on the monitor, the surveillance plunged him into a stupor. A hefty reptilian creature stood in front of the Hermod Veri and poked with the fingers of the severed hand of the head of the laboratory at the touch panel of the door, trying to open it. The lock was triggered by touching the sensor with a hand, reading fingerprints and palm prints. The creature knew this and tried to use it. In the next instant, a solid wall of fire destroyed everything in the room. The image transmission also stopped. The camera could not withstand the temperature. An hour after the appointed time, the delegation's contact group entered the territory of Base 51. The group was accompanied by reporters from all central TV channels. The group was shown ground workshops for aircraft repair, administrative and technical facilities. Even underground shelters were opened in case of nuclear war, but no one saw anything except concrete walls and outdated communication consoles. A day later, crowds of protesters began to leave the squares and avenues of the cities of the state. The secret was revealed, and the citizens of the United States calmed down. If you think that this is not proof of the existence of aliens, then you are right. There is much more evidence, and on our channel we will reveal all the secrets and evidence of their presence. Subscribe to the channel and send me your stories related to aliens by email. You will find contacts in the About the Channel section. If I haven't answered you, then I'm still checking on you, because the special services of all countries have announced a hunt for me. But together we will force the authorities to disclose all the information they have. After all, people should know the truth.